Hello, welcome to another Easify video. Today, I'm going to show you how you can use the Easify Paperwork Designer to put your company logo on your quotes, invoices, and purchase orders. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so as usual, let's start by launching Easify Pro, and we'll log in. And let's just talk quickly about the Easify Paperwork Designer. Now in Easify, there are various places that you can print paperwork, such as estimates, quotes, invoices, purchase orders, product labels. So for example, you could go into purchases and you could load up a purchase and you could print purchase order. Or you could go into your products and you could right click a product and you could say print price label. And equally from orders and quotes, you could open up an order or a quote. In this case, we've opened up a quote in progress. And on the print menu, you can print a variety of things. And in this example, we're going to be looking at how you can print a quote and how you can customize the quote. So if we print a quote, we get a preview of it on the screen. And you notice at the top, it just says your company name here. So you can change that and you can customize that. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. So in order to change this, what we're going to do is we'll close that. We'll close the order or the quote. And we'll go to the Paperwork Designer. So we'll go Tools, Paperwork Designer. And we launch the Easify Paperwork Designer. Now, I'll give you a quick overview of the Paperwork Designer. We're not going to go into any great detail. We'll save that for a future video. But I will say, go to our website and go to www.easify.co.uk. Go to Supports and Help. And if you expand Easify Pro Clients, scroll down, you'll get Paperwork Designer. And here there are loads and loads and loads of help topics all about the Paperwork Designer. So if you want to know more about the Paperwork Designer, I'd say definitely head over to here. And this will give you lots and lots of information about the Paperwork Designer. I mean, we've got working with text, pictures, boxes, data, even editing formulas. You can have formulas or formulae. You can write code in the Paperwork Designer. So you can always look through that. And as I say, we'll cover some of this in some future videos as well. So, right, the overview of the Paperwork Designer. When you open it up on the left here, you've got a document browser. And on the left here, it shows you all of the documents that are currently in the system, in the Paperwork Designer. And we just looked at the quote. So if you go to the Orders and Quotes section and click on Quote, that'll load up the Paperwork Designer for the quote, and here is where you can customize it and edit it. If you look on the left, you can see we've got four main categories. We've got customers, orders and quotes, products, and purchases. And these correspond to the four main areas that you can print things from. So under customers, you have envelopes and statements you can print for customers. Under orders and quotes, you have credit notes, delivery notes, estimate, invoice, job card, and quote. Under products, you have price label, 50 millimeters by 25 millimeters. And under purchases, you have the ability to print a purchase order. You can actually add to these. If you wanted a different type of paperwork, you could add it in here so you can create new paperwork. But as I say, for now, we're just going to look at modifying existing paperwork. On the top, we have the toolbar, and this lets you create text and pictures and lines and all that kind of stuff, and lets you edit the settings for the paperwork. Over on the right, we have the Field Explorer. And in here, this just shows you all of the different values you can use on the paperwork. So as I say, we'll cover that in a future video. And at the bottom, if you look down below, we have a Document Explorer tab. And if you click on that, this gives you an overview, an outline of all of the things that go to make up the paperwork. So if I look at the top here, we see it says Document Header 1. And if you look at this area in the middle where the actual paperwork is, you can see there's a section that says Document Header 1. And each of these horizontal areas is a section. And each section corresponds to a section over here in the Document Explorer. Well, if we look at the document header, and you see where it says your company name here, this is what we want to customize. Now, there's two ways we're going to do this. The first way is the really easy way of just changing the text. And then once we've done that, I'll show you how you can actually put your company logo in as an image. So if we click on this, we can see that over in the Document Explorer, it's become highlighted. You can see this header company name text is highlighted. You can click things in here as well. So if I click on this and then I click onto something else, you can see the element it represents outlined in red. So the Document Explorer is a really handy way of just clicking through things to identify which field goes where. So, as I say, what we're interested in is looking at where it says your company name here. Now, if you just want to do this really quickly and just get your company name on a quote, and this works the same for invoices, job cards, estimates, anything else that's in there, just double click where the text is. This is a text box, and you can select it and you can put your company name in there. And you can select that, and you could change the font if you wanted to. And you could change the size of it. And you could make it bold. That one doesn't support bolding. And then just click off it when you're done. And what I'll do, I'll just resize the box down a little bit and we'll move it slightly. And we'll click Save. And it's popped up to tell us no default printer. You have not selected a default printer. If you do not specify a default printer now, you'll be prompted for a printer to use when you go to print this item for the first time. Would you like to specify a default printer before saving? So I'll say yes to that, actually. What we can do here is we can select a default printer. Whenever anybody goes to print this paperwork, this will be the printer that it defaults to, and they can still change that. So if we drop this down, it gives you a list of your printers. Now, I've got an option of send to OneNote 2016, and ordinarily you would choose a real physical printer. But OneNote 2016, if you've got Office 365 installed and you have OneNote, this is a really handy option to select. It allows you basically to print the paperwork to OneNote as a page in OneNote. So rather than having to use an actual printer and print to paper, especially with something like this where you may be wanting to tweak it a little bit and print it and tweak it again, you don't want a whole ream of paper used up. So this is a really handy thing, and I'll show you how that works in a moment. So we'll save our changes, and we'll just move this. I'll maximize this and move this out of the way a little bit. And we'll go back to the quote that we were looking at before. And we'll go print quote. And you can see it says my company. Okay, well, that's a very quick way of just getting your company name on there. You could change the color, you could change the font. It's going to look quite basic, but if that's all you need, then no problem, job done. If we scroll down as well, incidentally, you'll see at the bottom it says you can put your company name and address here, or any other text or images that you wish. These can be edited via the Tools Paperwork Designer menu. So that's easy to change as well. If you wanted to change that, you just go to the paperwork, and again, you've got text boxes here, and you can just double click on a text box and you can edit that to say whatever you want it to say. Okay, right, now let's look at adding in an image. Adding in an image is easy as well, really. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to select this text box, and I'm going to delete it. So I'm just going to press the delete key. Are you sure you want to delete header company name text? Yes, we do. And there's an empty image behind it. I'm just going to delete that as well. So you can see, if you look over here, this header logo is empty. So I'm just going to delete that, get rid of it. We don't need that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, oh, actually, before we click anything, always make sure you've got the section selected that you want to add things to. As you see on the left here, you've got this column of information: document header 1, document header 2, page header, details, etc., etc. You need to make sure that you've selected the header section, or rather the section that you want the element to go into. So if you're adding text or a picture or a line, make sure you select the area you want it to go into. When you've done that, we're going to click on the Insert Picture button, and then we can browse for a picture. And I've got two pictures I'm going to use, but I'll select this one first, and I'm going to click on Open. And you can see the picture is inserted into the paperwork, and it's rather large, so we're going to need to resize it. So what we'll do is we'll just resize it down a bit, and this will take a little bit of doing. So we'll just resize this down until we get it the size we want it to be. And you'll notice you can resize it by dragging the handles on the edges. But the problem is it's not maintaining the aspect ratio of the image. In other words, the aspect ratio is just the proportion of the width to the height. So you can make it sort of very narrow and tall, or you can make it very sort of wide and short. So to make sure that it retains the original proportions, just hold the Shift key and then drag on the corner, and you'll notice it'll pop to being the correct aspect. So in other words, if I exaggerate that, and I give it a really sort of squashed up look. If I just hold shift and then grab one of the handles, it'll pop it back to the original proportions. So we'll move this into place. It doesn't have to be perfect for this example. And then I'm going to click save and let it save the paperwork. And then we'll go back to our order and we'll open that and we'll go print quote. And you'll notice we now have the company logo. So that's all well and good. Now, the problem with this is that I've used a fairly low resolution logo file. This one actually was 480 pixels wide. And you'll notice that if you zoom right in, you'll see it goes fuzzy. You can see the text is all nice and sharp, very sharp edges, but the image is very fuzzy. And that's because it's a low resolution image. Now, if I leave this here, we'll come back to it in a moment. And what we'll do is we'll load another image, but I've also got a high resolution image as well. So I'm going to delete this one, delete that image. Yes, I want to delete that picture. Make sure we've got a header selected. Then I'll add in another picture. Now this time I've got the same logo, but this one's 3000 pixels wide. And we'll go over that and why that matters in a little bit more detail in a minute. But we'll select this large logo and we'll click open. And now you can't even see it at all. Let me just make some more space here. So now you can't even see the logo. It's actually so big. Oops. It's so big it doesn't even begin to fit. But it is there. If you click here and move it, you can see we've got the image there. And because it's such a large image, you could be there for ages doing this. So I'll show you a little trick you can do to make this easy for resizing things. What we can do is we can make let's maximize this. Let's just double click that and maximize it. What you can do is you can make the page temporarily wider so you can fit more on the page. So if you click on this button, page setup, and the width is 210 millimeters wide because it's A4. So add a 0 to the end of that to make it 2.1 meters wide. Click OK. And now you can see that the paperwork goes way off the side. We zoom out using this zoom slider down here. And we'll zoom that way out. Now we can see more of the width of the image. But to make it even easier, we can grab the bottom of the section there and we'll drag that down as well, make the section really tall. So there we go. We can see the image much more easily now, and it's much easier just to drag it down. Just take a few goes just to kind of drag it down to size, and we'll get it near enough. We won't worry about the proportions of it just yet. We'll just get it sort of near enough. Now I'm going to just hold shift and click the bottom right handle to constrain it, and we'll move it down a bit more, get it roughly in the right place. Then we can move the section back up roughly. We'll zoom in and fine tune that in a moment. We go back to our page setup, get rid of the extra 0 we added in, click OK. Then we can zoom in down here. And we can then fine tune things. So we'll grab the image, move it more into position. I'll hold shift and click the corner, snap it into size. And there we go, that looks good. Let's just move this section up to where it should be, just up to here. And okay, so what I'll do, I'll save that. And that's now saved. So let's just reduce this down a bit. Bear in mind, this was the one with the small image we used. We'll print that quote again. So I'll open it up and we'll go print quote. And it looks much the same. And now if we zoom in, you can see now that this retains the sharpness. It hasn't gone all fuzzy. Because it's a high resolution image, it's maintained its sharpness. And you can see that as well. I mean, if we do a test print, I can click print, send to OneNote 2016. You could send this to a real printer if you wanted to test it that way. And we just wait a moment. OneNote's asking us, where do you want to insert the printout? So I'll just select quick notes and say always send printouts to the selected location. Okay. And it prints to OneNote on the screen. And again, you can look at that. You can zoom in and you can see that it's got a good amount of sharpness on the images there. Now, there's no sort of hard and fast rule as to what size to make the images. If you want to, you could just use the sort of rule of thumb that I've got here. If I go into the images folder again, pictures, and you can see that we have the low resolution one was 480 pixels wide, and the high resolution one was 3000 pixels wide. If you make your image about 3000 pixels wide, that's going to be pretty good. You don't have to work it out precisely. If you did want to work it out, however, I'll just show you the maths if you're interested in that side of it. What we can base it on is that the minimum resolution you really want to print to a printer at to have good quality print resolution and sharp edges is about 300 dots per inch. Most printers support 300 dots per inch. A lot of laser printers will print at 600 dpi or dots per inch or higher. If you go much above 600, you're not really going to get much of a benefit other than just huge file sizes. So I would say aim at say 600 dpi. That's a really good quality setting. And what you do then basically is decide how wide in inches you actually want the image to be. So let me just zoom in a little bit here. Now, bear in mind with this is A4, so the width is 210 millimeters, and that's about 8 inches wide. So we can say that this logo is going to end up about 5 inches wide, where it is. If you have a smaller logo, say here, you may want the end result to be 2 or 3 inches wide. But if we have a 5-inch wide logo, let's pop up our calculator, and we can say we've got a 5-inch wide image and we want it to be 600 dots per inch. So that's 5 times 600. 5 times 600 is 3000. So that's why we went for the 3000 dots per inch image. So if you want to know sort of precisely, if you want to work it out yourself, you can. But as I say, anything around that sort of size is going to print quite nicely. Bear in mind though that you need to have a high resolution image to start with. So what you can't do is take a low resolution image and then just scale it up from 480 pixels to 3000. That won't help. That will still be fuzzy. So you need the image to be of really good quality to begin with. Now, when the image is actually stored in Easify and you click save, even though with this image we've dragged it down and down in size, it's still stored at its original size. And that's why it will print nicely. Basically, if you store a really huge image, a really high resolution image, the Easify Paperwork Designer will store it at its original DPI. It'll store it at a very high DPI, even though it's displaying it small on the screen. So that's how we're able to print with this really high resolution. Now, you don't only have to use images on the logo. You can use images anywhere in the Paperwork Designer. You could put an image in the footer if you wanted to. You could click in the page footer, and then you could say add image, and you could pick, let's just pick that small image again. So you could also add an image there, obviously a different image. You could, if you've got manufacturer accreditations or awards or anything like that, really, you can just put images in the paperwork wherever you want them to be. Okay, something else I'll show you as well while we're here, while we're doing this. As I say, I don't want to get too in depth in the Paperwork Designer right now. We've pretty much covered just adding your company logo to your paperwork. But what you'll notice here is there are a couple of things. One is that if you look at the logo, it overlays the order number. Now here's a box where the order number would get entered, and it's behind the logo. So if this, when it printed, had a long order number, it would get lost behind the image. So what you can do to fix that is you can right click on the order number. Oops, it's just moved a bit. Let me right click it and say bring to front. And now this box is on top and it'll print over the logo. And it's actually going to overwrite the logo a little bit there. So we'll just move the logo down so that it's not going to overwrite it. Now, the other thing you may notice as well is that we've got a bit of a gap now between my company and where the quoted to address and the delivered to address would appear. So you can move these around. Just grab those fields and just move them to close up the gaps a little bit like that. And then we can move the section up as well. Now, with these sections, these will dynamically resize. If you look at, if I select the formatted name and address, this box will print the customer's name and address on multiple lines. So it could be 4, 5, 6 lines long. And if you look at this button here that says allow text box to grow vertically to fit its contents, and if you watch this box, and I'll click another field that doesn't have that, you can see that this one here, the date doesn't have that checked in. It doesn't have a little blue border around it. If I click on formatted name and address again, and you watch this button, you'll see that it becomes selected. It has a little blue border. And what that means is that this text area will grow in size if it has more than one line. And because of that, it will cause the section it's in, this header, to automatically grow as well. So what I'm saying is you don't need to have loads of space under here to allow the text field to grow into. You can have the section right up against it. The section will automatically expand to fit its contents. Okay, now we've just manually moved these around, so it means they're going to be a bit out of line. They won't be very tidy. So a way that you can square things up really easily, let me just zoom in a little bit more on there. If you want to line things up really accurately, make sure everything's really nicely precise and really lined up well, click the magnet tool. There's a snap to objects magnet here. So click that. And when that's pressed in and it's got the blue border, that means that when you move any of these objects, they'll snap to each other. And you'll get little blue lines will shoot out to show you where they're aligned to. So if I show you that with this formatted name and address, I want that to align, to be left aligned with the quoted to box. So I'll just move that, and you can see now it's snapped to it, and you get that little blue line sort of appears and disappears. That means it's snapped to it. The same with deliver to. I want the top of the deliver to box to be aligned with the top of the quoted to box. So if I click on that, then it's snapping it and it's giving me that little blue line. So that's aligned now with that one. And formatted delivery name and address. I want the top of that aligned with the top of the formatted name and address, and I want the left of it aligned with the deliver to box. So again, if we move it around, it's snapped to it. And you can see those lines telling us it's snapped to it. Okay, right, let's save that. And we'll move this out of the way. And then we'll go back to our order, open it up again, and we'll go print quote. And there we've got our quote, and everything's all nicely lined up. You can see that there's not too much white space above here. This formatted name and address is printed on multiple lines, and everything's moved down for it. And you can see in the footer there's our little My Company logo there as well. Okay, well that pretty much wraps it up for how to add your company logo to the paperwork in the Easify Paperwork Designer. If you've got any questions about the Easify Paperwork Designer, please feel free to ask them in the comments below, or email us support@easify.co.uk, and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as we can with an answer. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and until next time, thanks for watching.